As school buildings sat empty during the first year of the pandemic,
I am so lonely.
kids struggled.
This is just like soul crushing.
With COVID and virtual learning and isolation from your friends, it's tough on a kid.
We found after London passed that 2 of her friends were also suicidal.
If we don't find like a solution soon, we're going to lose a lot of kids.
And coming back to school was not easy.
We have students that, are being physical towards staff, biting, kicking, scratching.
Teachers have been hurt, kids have been hurt. I've seen kids savagely beaten in the hallway.
Every day they came home, it was like, oh, there was 4 fights, there were 7 fights, there was 2 fights.
We've seen a huge uptick in mood disorders with kids.
These kids are suffering. These kids are really suffering.
Now, things are starting to look brighter.
Who's excited about doing their mantras? Fabulous.
But there's still a long way to go.
We're kind of riding the ship of students going back to a normalcy.
Well, Portland Public Schools gave us access.
Christine Pitawanich brings us part 1 of a 5-part series, Counseled, Inside Our Schools. Here's the story.
Portland Public Schools, the largest district in Oregon, is home to roughly 42,000 students scattered over 81 schools. We followed 3 school counselors at Sitton Elementary in St. John's, West Sylvan Middle in the Southwest Hills, and Lincoln High School downtown.
Our apology should come from where? Our what?
Our heart.
Our heart.
Hi, you guys.
We're kind of riding the ship of students going back to a normalcy.
Mental health professionals have agreed there were issues before that the pandemic made worse. As students get more accustomed to fully in-person school this year, Deb Bloom, a counselor at Sitton Elementary, says staff have worked really hard to make kids feel welcome and at ease here.
We really focused on empathy and really understanding other people's feelings.
The same is true at both the middle and high school levels.
We've had to be so creative in order to reach kids. Like, we had to create systems so that this new environment, like some kids hadn't been ever in middle school, so we had to make it like even more welcoming and more embracing to their needs.
The more we're back in person, I've seen less mental health concerns.
But those mental health issues are still there. School counselors, who often work alongside teachers, are literally having to teach kids how to interact with adults and each other. They're often the first line of defense, helping kids who are struggling. A counselor's scope of work is broad and can cover everything from suicide to college applications. With hundreds of students under their care, the work is challenging but fulfilling.
Mental health is everyone's business.
We want to be foundational for students' academic and emotional health.
It's the best job in the entire world.
Christine joins me now. Super interesting story. And I noticed those 3 schools, they're all on the west side. Why is that?
Portland Public Schools gave us access to those schools, and this has been months in the making. So once they said, hey, here are the schools, we thought, okay, let's jump on it. But we know parents have told us they believe, some do anyway, that the west side schools are just treated differently than the east side schools. So I reached out to a Portland Public Schools teacher that I had contact with over the course of the pandemic, teaches mostly kind of on the east side, and they did corroborate what these counselors were telling me.
So it's pretty much the same. They say west side or east side schools.
In terms of how kids are doing, basically better than last year.
Okay, well, that's great to hear. Mm-hmm. You also mentioned in there that the teachers are teaching the kids how to interact with each other. Break that down. What does that mean?
I mean, I guess, maybe we'd think of these as kind of simple techniques, really conflict resolution techniques to make sure kids don't escalate in terms of arguments, start yelling at each other, start fighting, because what we saw last school year when kids were just coming back for in-person learning after a couple of years learning, at home from distance, they didn't really know how to interact with each other. They didn't know what was okay behavior at school. So I think this year there's a huge effort to, one, promote connectiveness among kids and teachers and just the whole school community, and also make sure that these kids know how to resolve conflict.
Yeah, all right, sounds good. Sounds like a fascinating series. Really looking forward to it. Thank you, Christine. Christine's series, Counseled, Inside Our Schools, airs all this week on The Story. We'll be going into an elementary school tomorrow and sitting down with the kids there and the counselors as well. Thanks a lot, Christine.
Yeah.